Okay, cool. Now let's start with a psychology and sociology section. So, for this, honestly, I'm not sure if I should go with the overview first because I would just rather start with the flashcards. So let's do that, I guess. So we have the Mr. Pankow. We have 6A, B, C, 7A, B, C, 8A and B, C, and then 9A and 9B and 9C. Let's browse through them. Where's Mr. Pankow? Mr. Pankow. We have 254 cards for 6A, which is wonderful. We have visual cues, otolithic organs, honestly, let's just go through them. See how many cards we can get down for now. So what are filled with endolymph, which is a fluid that shifts to help detect what direction our head is moving in. Endolymph, I mean, I expect, like the semicircular canals. Boom! There you go. Semicircular canals are filled with endolymph. Also, since we can determine how quickly the endolymph moves, we can also detect the strength of rotation. So, since we can determine how quickly the endolymph moves, so you can see here that the endolymph is inside the semicircular canals. Let's go from the outer layer. So we have the tympanic membrane here. I believe this is the border between the middle ear and the outer ear. And we have malleus, incus, and stapes for the middle ear. And then we have the round window. We have the oval window. And the vibration goes here through the oval window to the perilymph. And it vibrates like this. We have scala vestibuli. So let's have our thing by the side. So here we have P, S, and then we have six A. So we have what are scala vestibuli? Then we have helicotrema 1. Helicotrema 1. What else? we have then it goes around, but we also have the endolymph. So we have vestibular membrane, we have tectorial membrane, the cochlea, the hairs, organ of Corti. Oh, this is fancy. And the basilar membrane. So the vestibular membrane is more on the inside, and the basilar membrane is on the outside in scala tympani. In the scala tympani, we have scala vestibuli and scala tympani. Scala vestibuli and tympani. What are similarities and differences? Vestibular versus basilar membrane. Was it basilar? Yeah, basilar. We also have organ of Corti. So, tectorial membrane versus tectorial membrane. Tectorial is here. Okay. So it is the semicircular canals that are filled with endolymph. Now, what is the function of the endolymph? Is it for balance? So it's for, yes, it's kind of for balance. Are endolymphs for balance? Yes, it's involved in balance. So it's a fluid found in the inner ear within the labyrinth, specifically in the membranous labyrinth of the vestibular system. The movement of the fluid within the semicircular canals, so the movement of the endolymph and other structures, helps detect changes in head position and movement. So it's mainly for head position and movement, in what direction is our head moving, and we can determine how quickly the endolymph moves. We can also detect the strength of rotation. So the speed, both in directional speed and rotational speed. So the strength of rotation, like the acceleration. Can we detect both directional and rotational speed with endolymph? Yes, the endolymph within the semicircular canals detects both directional and rotational. The semicircular canals are 3 fluid-filled structures oriented perpendicular to each other in 3 different planes, each detecting movement in a specific direction: horizontal, vertical, and oblique. When the head rotates, the endolymph within these canals moves. As the head rotates, the movement of the endolymph within these canals stimulates hair cells. So it's the hair cells which are sensory receptors, and this information is then transmitted to the brain. The brain processes the signals from these canals to interpret the direction and speed of the head's rotational movement, aiding in our sense of balance and spatial orientation. Okay. Nice. Since we got it, it'll put hard for this. What involves contracting our inner ear muscle to dampen vibrations and protect the tympanic membrane? Mm. Contracting our inner ear muscle to dampen vibrations and protect the tympanic membrane. Hearing adaptation. So, what involves contracting our inner ear muscle to dampen vibrations and protect the tympanic membrane? So, the tympanic membrane is I don't get this. Hearing adaptations. Okay, first of all, where are we here? We're in the second chapter, apparently. And then we have hearing adaptations. I'm just reading, by the way. Eustachian tube filled with perilymph, bony labyrinth, membranous labyrinth filled with endolymph. Membranous labyrinth consists of cochlea, rotational, linear, utricle, and saccule. Adaptation refers to an increase or decrease in sensitivity to a stimulus. Contracting our inner ear muscle to dampen vibrations and protect the tympanic membrane. For that we have hearing adaptation. Hearing adaptation. There's only these two. Okay. So we need something like hearing adaptation. Whoa. What happened? Hearing adaptation. To protect tympanic membrane and dampen vibrations. Okay. The absolute threshold of sensation can be influenced by the following. The absolute threshold of sensation. expectations, experience. So expectations is what we expect in the future. Are you expecting a text message? Experience, how often do you receive the text messages? How familiar are you with it? Are you familiar of the phone's text vibration sound? So these are absolute threshold of sensation. So you have a relative threshold and an absolute threshold. And absolute threshold is motivation and alertness. So motivation is, are you interested in the response of the text? Alertness is, are you awake or drowsy? You will notice text if you are awake. So your alertness, your experience, your expectation, and your motivation. Are you interested in the response of the text? So expect from your experiences and absolutely be motivated. Expect from your experiences and absolutely be aware alert and motivated. Mnemonic this. Okay. The autolytic organs help detect linear acceleration in head positioning. So we have the autolytic. To be fair, I did not have a question on the auditory system in my exam. However, where is this? Autolytic. Yeah, it's not here. Let's just read. Autolytic organs, linear and plus head positioning. So where are autolytic organs located? Oh, the utricle and saccule. Okay. What is the minimum intensity of stimulus needed to detect a particular stimulus 50% of the time? I think it's the threshold difference, something like that. The absolute threshold of sensation. So we have the absolute threshold of sensation, and the it's the minimum amount of stimulus energy required for you to notice 50% of that will activate a system. But here we have 50%, right? The minimum intensity of stimulus needed to detect a particular stimulus 50% of the time. The JND, right? The Weber's law. Just noticeable difference for a stimulus is proportional to the magnitude of the stimulus. Do we have a 50% thing or not? No. So, what's the confusion here? Well, we have the absolute threshold of sensation. So, there's no mention of the 50% of the time, but that is the more correct answer. So, we go with that. So, we will actually 50%. 50% of the time for this. Is the minimum intensity you need. Give me examples for absolute threshold of sensation. Is the minimum amount of light that can be detected, for instance, being able to perceive a single candle flame from about 30 miles on a clear, dark night. Hearing, the quietest sound a person can hear. An example might be hearing a watch ticking from about 20 feet away in a quiet room. So it should be detected 50% of the time in order for it to be absolute threshold. Yes, that's correct. The absolute threshold is often defined as a stimulus and it can be 50%. Controlled testing conditions if a stimulus is present. At that threshold, intensity should be detecting about half of the trials and not detecting the other half. If over 50% detected, then it is still absolute threshold. And so this is called the absolute threshold of sensation, right? So if lower, is it relative? Suprathreshold or simply detectable, as it's above the minimum intensity needed for detection. But it wouldn't be considered the absolute threshold, so it's not a threshold, it's just detectable. Conversely, if a stimulus is detected less than, in the case that the intensity was below, it might be difficult to, so it's sub-threshold. The absolute threshold is specifically defined as the minimum at the time. Anything above, for any boundary between what can and cannot be perceived. Do we have a relative threshold of sensation? Yes, we do have a concept which is the JND, difference threshold, which refers to the smallest detectable difference between two stimuli. Perfect. So Weber's law describes JND, or describes different threshold to stimuli as a constant proportion. For example, it might take a 10% increase in weight for someone to notice a difference in a relatively heavy object, while a 10% increase in a lighter object might not be noticeable. When the stimulus changes, there is a threshold at which we notice the change, which aligns with the relative threshold concept. Who is Weber, and how did he come up with this law? Ernst Heinrich Weber was a German physician and anatomist born in the late 18th century. He made significant contributions to the field of psychology, particularly in understanding sensory perception and the relationship between stimulus and perception. Weber is most renowned for Weber's law, formulated through his experience on sensory perception, especially the touch and the perception of weight. He asked subjects to distinguish between different weights or intensities of stimuli. His law states that the JND between two stimuli is proportional to the magnitude of stimuli. In simpler terms, the difference threshold, or the smallest change in stimulus it can be perceived, is not a fixed amount but a constant proportion of the original stimulus. His experiments involved tests like asking people to differentiate between weights, where he found that people needed to add a certain percentage of weight to notice a difference. For example, adding 1 ounce, and perfection. What allows us to perceptually organize? Discipline. Visual cues to perceptually organize. How do visual cues allow us to perceptually organize? Visual cues play a pivotal role in how we organize and make senses of the visual world. Gestalt principles. Motion parallax. Motion parallax is a monocular cue. It can give a sense of depth through motion. it states that, so it's monocular. Why is it monocular? Closer to us appeared to move faster than objects that are further away. Why is motion parallax monocular? What does that mean? That if you're looking at it with one eye, that happens, right? Because it can be perceived with just one eye. It's just one. You don't need both eyes to sense that. Monocular cues are those. I saw a recent thing by Dr. Hugh Moran where he was saying that when like specific animals, I don't remember what type of animal he was talking about, like the deer, or I don't know, like one of these animals that you hunt in the jungle. Uh, their eyes are on the side, so they are actually seeing everything monocularly. So they have a really good motion parallax. So once you are standing still and not moving, they will see. They will not see you. But once you move, they immediately can detect you, because motion parallax is because they see you moving very quickly. So motion parallax is a thing, and it's monocular. And it can give a sense of depth through motion. So they perceive how away from them you are with moving. And it states that things farther away move faster and things closer to you move slower. Sorry, things closer to you move faster, and things away from you, like when you're on the train and you're moving, you can see the things away in the distance, like the mountains. They're moving very slowly, but when you are close, when you're looking at the grass or the cars beside you, you're moving very fast. Yeah, I think I'm good for this. Proprioception is the sense of the proprioception is the sense of uh, the body, right? The position of the body in space. It's the sense of the position of the body, aka the sense of balance where you are in space. The JND is the threshold at which you are able to detect the signal or detect whatever you are sensing 50% of the time. Notice a change in a sensation. Sorry, that's for absolute threshold. So JND is the threshold at which you are able to notice a change in sensation. So you are able to notice a change in sensation. Slow adapting neurons fire at the beginning of a stimulus and calm down after a while. What is the difference between slow and fast adapting neurons? Fast adapting neuron fires as soon as a stimulus starts, then stops firing, then starts again when stimulus stops. Why do they behave like that? So it immediately starts as soon as the stimulus starts. The fast adapting neurons fire and then they stop again, then fire again, start again when the stimulus stops. Oh, so when the stimulus stops, they fire again. What are the examples also? What are the examples? The vestibular system provides the sense of what and what. The vestibular system provides a sense of, I would say, balance and motion. So balance and spatial orientation. It comes from both the inner and ear and the limbs. So balance and spatial orientation. So yeah, it provides a sense of balance and spatial orientation. I mean, I didn't get the spatial orientation, so. What includes the utricle and saccule? We got to know that it is the autolytic organs. Where are utricle and saccule? Autolytic organs contribute to the phenomena of. So it's for linear acceleration and also like rotation, dizziness and vertigo. So phenomena of vertigo and uh, dizziness. So you get dizzy or you have vertigo. It's autolytic organs. Endolymph doesn't stop moving at the same time we do. So it continues to move, and our brain thinks we are still moving even if we are stopped. So when we stop, our endolymph doesn't stop as fast as we do. So what looks at how humans make decisions under conditions of uncertainty? Signal detection theory. This is used to discern between important and unimportant stimuli. Signal detection theory. So we detect stimuli, signals, that are important to us. Where is the signal detection theory? Here. It refers to the effects of non-sensory factors such as experiences, motives, and expectations on perception of stimuli. So we had the absolute threshold sensation. We had threshold of conscious perception, the minimum stimulus energy that will create a signal large enough in size and long enough in duration to be brought into awareness. And then we have difference threshold, which is the J and D. And then signal detection theory, like for you to dignify a signal, accounts for response bias. So if you have response bias, whatever you respond to means that that thing is important to you. That's why you responded. So we have important and unimportant stimuli, the signal detection theory. Unimportant stimuli can also be called like what's against signals? Noises? Noise, yes. I got this right still. What is when a subject responds affirmative when a signal was present? So this is a hit, right? Yes. What is when the subject perceived the signal when there was none present? So this is a miss. False alarm. What is when a subject gives a negative answer for no signal? This is also hit. Correct rejection. What is when a subject gives a negative response to a present signal? This is a miss. Yes. What is the symbol for strength of a signal? So if the signal was there and you said no, that's a I forgot the label. And if the signal is not there and you say yes, that's a so the hit is when the signal is there and you say it was there. But the miss is when the signal is there and you miss it. You say no. Now how about when the signal is not there? So if the signal is not there and you say it wasn't there, then it was a correct rejection. The only term that's missing is when the signal was not there, but you said it was there. So it's a mistake, right? What is that mistake called? Well, we have it, so it should be there. Just wait. What is the symbol for strength of a signal? It's intensity, right? D prime. Hit over miss when signal is strong. Miss over hit when signal is weak. Interesting. What is the symbol for the strategy used in signal detection? So the strategy that you used in signal detection, the symbol for that is C. So C is the symbol for a strategy used in signal detection. What the hell? Where was this? So this is definitely not here. So let's write it in here. D prime equals intensity, signal strength, and then C symbol for strategy. What involves contracting our inner ear muscle to dampen vibrations and protect the tympanic membrane is hearing adaptation. The absolute threshold of sensation can be influenced by experienced so our expectations are influenced by our experience, and they are absolutely when we are motivated and alert. So motivation and alertness. Expect from your experiences and absolutely be alert and motivated and alert. That's in your wiring, that's in your circuit now. That's who you want to be. This is the person that I choose to be. Now, the reason behind why you are choosing this is, for example, being motivated, is, for example, being alert and having that focus. It could be also the fact that you are better at expecting things, and then also people call you experienced. So you want all these attributes to be absolutely able to sense your threshold. So this is an iron mind that all these influencer people are talking about. They are talking about this. Now let's go for the next one. The autolytic organs help detect our balance. The endolymph doesn't move, so it's the utricle and saccule. So it's both balance and our head position. So our linear acceleration and head positioning. So do autolytic organs also work on the rotational? Yes. Look at here, endolymph. Okay. Do autolytic organs detect also rotational acceleration beside linear acceleration? The primary function is to detect linear acceleration and changes in head position with respect to gravity. They are primarily sensitive to changes in linear motion and the orientation of the head in relation to gravity. However, while the autolytic organs are primarily designed for detecting linear acceleration, such as when you move in a straight line or experience changes in speed, they can also contribute to detecting certain aspects of rotational acceleration to some extent. They might provide some information about head tilt or angular changes, although their main role is in sensing linear movement and gravitational orientation. The semicircular canals within the inner ear are the primary structures responsible for detecting rotational acceleration. So these canals are specifically oriented in 3 different planes to sense movements in different directions and are highly specialized for detecting rotational movements of the head. So we have gonna do this again. What is to always say no unless 100% sure signal is present? Ooh, this strategy might result in some misses, but you will get all correct rejections. So you say no unless 100% sure signal is present. So it might have some misses. So misses are when you miss the signal, right? So you say it wasn't there, but it was there because you weren't 100% sure. But you will get all correct rejections. So you wouldn't be like, oh, this happened and I missed it. I mean, this happened and I said, this didn't happen and I said, no, it happened. The conservative strategy. Oh, that's also a good picture for that. So for conservatives, you just say no unless 100% sure the signal was present. Okay, now we have to do this again. So because you're being conservative, you just say no unless you're 100% sure. What strategies always say yes? This strategy might result in some false alarms, but you will get all the hits. The liberal strategy, always say yes. Type of processing begins with the stimulus which influences our perception. What type of processing begins with the stimulus which influences our perception? What type of processing begins with the stimulus which influences our perception? Bottom up processing. So it starts with the stimulus which influences our perception. So we have bottom up processing. So what does it mean that you come from the bottom and then you go up? So bottom up is taking sensory information and then assembling and integrating it together. So you have a thing at the bottom, you ask yourself, what am I seeing here? And then the top down is using models, ideas, and expectations to interpret sensory information. So for the bottom up, you use whatever sensory information that you see, and then you want to make conclusions. You want to assemble them together and integrate them. But for top down, you use models, ideas, strategies, expectations to interpret sensory information. So you want to kind of forecast this sensory information. Is that something I have seen before? So once you ask yourself, once you go retrospectively, once you look back at your experiences, you're like, oh, have I seen this before? And that is when you have a top down processing. So that would be good for doing it again. So it begins with stimulus, which influences our perception. It starts with the stimulus. What is the minimum intensity of stimulus needed to? So here we want examples of bottom up and top down processing. What is the minimum intensity of stimulus needed to detect a particular stimulus 50% of the time? So this is the absolute threshold of sensation. Perfect. Bottom-up processing uses what reasoning? So because it goes from what we immediately see and the stimulus, it should be, so we have inductive and deductive, right? It must be, so what is the difference between deducing and inducing? Man, uh, as far as I know, deducing is making conclusions, and you make conclusions based on what you have and what you are saying. So I'm assuming bottom up should be a deductive reasoning, and is always, oh, correct. Oh, but it's inductive. What is the difference between deductive and inductive reasoning? So yeah, it's inductive, but it's always correct because you started from the bottom. What allows us to perceptually organize its visual cues? What bottom-up processing is driven by the stimulus, right? Data. Top-down processing uses what? Which influences perception. It is also driven by what rather than data. It's theory rather than data, and top-down processing uses background knowledge. It's interesting, it uses background knowledge. So when you go top down, you are using background knowledge. So like, where have I seen this before? And what influences my perception? It is theory rather than data. Top-down processing uses deductive reasoning. What concept tries to explain how we perceive things the way we do? How we perceive things the way we do. I mean, we have perception, and then how we perceive it is mental state, the Gestalt principles, Gestalt G closure, Gestalt proximity. This is a good one. Similarity, Gestalt. A figure and around, tree within the letter A. Styled continuation, proximity. Then we have similarity, and then we have, there's also closure in the T's, as you can see here, and there's figure and ground, tree within the letter A, tree within the letter A. Oh, I didn't see this tree right here. Figure and ground. So they try to explain how we perceive things the way we do. The JND is the threshold at which you're able to detect, at which you're able to detect a signal relative to the percentage of increase, relative increase, right? Notice a change in sensation. So it's about, so JND is about the change in sensation, and you detect it. You notice a change, just noticeable difference. So notice a change in sensation. Proprioception is the sense of the body's position in space, the position of the body's position in space. Perfect. Gestalt principles states that what Gestalt principle states that items similar to one another are grouped together by the brain. So similarity should be for this. Our brain organizes these as columns and not rows. It groups them together as they are similar. What Gestalt principle states that our brains organize and reduce reality to the simplest form possible? I would say organize and reduce reality. Is closure? Prognons. Simplest form possible. Our brains see rings rather than all these weird ass shapes. Okay. I get it. Prognons. Reduce it to the simplest form. Fast adapting neuron fires. Oh, so how they fire the fast adapting neurons is once the stimulus starts, they immediately fire and then they stop. And then once the stimulus stops, they start again. As soon as the stimulus starts. Yeah. What Gestalt principle states that objects that are close together are grouped together. So the Gestalt principle states that objects, okay, closure is when you are close together, they are grouped together. I mean, it's proximity for this one. Yeah, don't confuse it with closure. The vestibular system provides the sense of, this would be balance and acceleration, so head positioning, spatial orientation. So vestibular system is for spatial orientation and balance. So like linear or rotational orientation is vestibular system. So semicircular canals are a part of the vestibular system. It comes from both the inner ear and the limbs. What are the limbs? So what does the vestibular system consist of? I believe here we have it where never mind. Oh, vestibulo-ocular reflex. This is talking about reflexes. So yeah, slow adapting neurons fire at the start of the stimulus, and they stop when the stimulus is, and calm down after a while at the beginning of a stimulus. They calm down after a while. We need examples for these. What Gestalt principle states that lines are seen as following the smoothest path. This can be confused with the Olympic rings, which was the prognons, reducing down to simplest form instead of saying weird shapes. For the smoothest path is continuity. You can see the smooth line here. So continuity is when we see lines as following smoothest path. This one states that objects grouped together are seen as a whole and the mind fills them in missing information. So this is closure. Filling the missing information is closure. Your stupid human mind fills in this triangle even though it's not actually there. Okay. Good picture, honestly. Autolytic organs contribute to the phenomena of, so we have linear acceleration and head positioning. Oh, Jesus. So dizziness and vertigo. But still, I was right on the linear acceleration. And so the phenomenons are vertigo and dizziness. So that's because our endolymph doesn't stop moving right as fast as when we stop moving. So our brain thinks that we are still moving. Which one states that the mind perceives objects as being symmetrical and forming around the center point? This one I would go with symmetry. Peep the symmetry. What is when a subject gives a negative answer for no signal? So this is like what I was. My best guess would be negative answer for no signal is rejection, correct rejection. Yeah, it's correct rejection. What states that humans perceive visual elements that move in the same speed and or direction as parts of a single stimulus? Is it like a motion thing? Law of common fate. Man, this one is a hard one. It states that humans perceive visual elements that move in the same speed or direction as part of a single stimulus. Jesus. Law of common fate. We see their fate as common because they're just moving in the same direction and speed together. What is when the subject perceived a signal when there was none present? So there was no signal present, but we perceived a signal. So this is a miss because this is a false alarm. So a false alarm, so a miss is when it was there actually and we missed it. But the false alarm is when it wasn't there but we perceived a signal. gotta think of the false alarm itself. What looks at how humans make decisions under conditions of uncertainty. So, making decisions under conditions of uncertainty. The wording of this one is super tricky. We had this once and I don't remember what it was. How humans make decisions under, yeah, Gestalt principles is the answer. No, fuck. Signal detection theory looks at how humans make decisions under uncertainty. So when you're uncertain, signal detection theory explains how you make a decision. This is used to discern between important and unimportant stimuli. What is the symbol for strength of a signal? So D prime is for the strength of a signal, and the strategy C. When you hit instead of over missing, it means that the signal was too strong. And once you miss over hitting, it means that the signal was too weak. So, and there you go. We can continue with the rest. I think we did like 40 or 50 flashcards. I hope so. So, yeah, we'll continue later. So for now, peace. I'll take a long break since we did an 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. and then also count how much time I missed in between so I can add it to my schedule for tonight. Peace for now.